What's up?
The summit.
What?
The summit is up.
What? This is Australia, Scotty. We don't have summits. Welcome
The pinnacle.
to the Film Roast podcast. Stop talking about mountainous ranges for 1 second, because
The
that's not
peak.
why we're here. We're here to talk
The
about
peak.
movies, Scotty.
Yep.
How have you been this week?
I've been great, Jordan.
Really?
I have. I've been very busy, which means I don't think about how terrible the world is.
Yeah,
all the terrible
or-
things happening going on in it.
Or how your mic is facing the wrong way.
Yes, or that.
There you go. That's better.
I wasn't
He's
thinking
fixed
at
his-
all.
He's fixed his mic. Yeah, this week, the date that we are recording on here in Australia is the 8th of January,
Yes, but that means
2021.
everyone knows what happened in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about it, so we don't need to talk about
No,
it
we don't.
because you can Google it.
It's utterly insane.
It is insane.
And we've got other things to talk about.
We don't have time to
No.
give time to such rubbish.
I learnt how to do coffee art.
You did latte art.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So that's what I did this week. What did you do this week?
I worked and I worked and I worked.
Fun.
Yep. I booked a pool membership to go swimming every week.
Have you done it yet?
I'll be going tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gonna get my swim on,
Nice.
get some exercise.
Cool.
That's a New Year's resolution. A horrible thing, but
Yeah.
I've managed to keep my New Year's resolution by spending money because that ensures that you keep it, right?
Well,
Right?
I guess some people have a different idea of what that means. I've been working out as well a lot more the past 2 weeks than I have in the last year, because last year was depressing and I didn't want to do anything. But this year I'm going to make an effort. I'm going to be better than I was last year. And on that note,
The zeitgeist has been established.
what are we doing?
Today we're talking about Soul, the latest Disney Pixar movie.
And guess what, guys? You get to listen to a new song. Play that shit.
Peel back the curtain, set the scene, bring out the film reels and ground coffee. Elizabeth Taylor, all sugar and spice. Rambo ripping heads off, cause he's not very nice. Robert Redford's running from the cops. Scarlett Johansson showing her acting chops. Samuel Jackson got that fine diction, roasting everyone in Pulp Fiction. Doc and Marty escaping through time, playing chess with the Wookiee, put your life on the line. Thelma and Louise are driving coast to coast. Why is this important? It's time for a film roast.
Oh, smooth shit.
Yeah, that was. We're recording this before we've even listened to it, by the way.
Yes,
we found this
spoilers.
fantastic couple online who do beautiful music, and they've agreed to help us out. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, we're very blessed
Yeah.
to spend money and get things in return.
Yes. Yeah, that's how it works.
We appreciate this, though.
That's
Transaction is
Fiverr
good.
people.
Shout out to them.
Throw money, and I'll slip. What I'll do is I'll slip another recording once it's done. I'll slip another recording of me giving them a shout out right here.
Yeah.
So just listen right now,
Film Roast theme song by Noah DiNocenzo and Steph Torres.
and there it is.
Oh, my eardrums. You shouted really loud.
You're welcome. Now you know how it feels. Every
Touche.
fucking time. Every time yeah.
Soul is directed by Pete Docter, produced by Dana Murray, written by Pete Docter, Mike Jones, and Kerry Powers, and starring the voices of Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, and others.
And others, yeah.
Did you recognize the others? There were two voices that stood out to me.
Yes. I didn't know it was Graham Norton at first, but I was like, I know that voice.
Yeah.
I know that voice. I'm actually really surprised because he's not known for doing acting stuff.
Well, I watched Father Ted, so I've seen him
Oh,
do
okay,
stuff,
fair
but
enough.
yes.
Fair enough. But he's not. He's known for being a late night television host in the UK.
He might be my favorite. Like, I've watched a lot of, because of YouTube, it's mostly because of YouTube now. I've watched a lot of TV host stuff. And in terms of people making it easy to talk to, he's probably
He's fucking great.
he is.
He makes it. He's friendly. He's not overbearing.
No.
He's fun. He's much better than James Corden.
Yeah, that's
I mean, sorry, James, but he's just so charismatic.
Yeah,
He
he is.
just beats everyone else out. But yeah, I was surprised that he was in this, and happy as well, because he's got a fantastic little role in this film.
The other voice I recognized instantly was Richard Ayoade.
Yeah,
because-
well, of course. He's in he's been
Yeah.
in so many Disney Pixar films recently, I
Yeah.
feel. Like he's always in the background somewhere.
Yeah, and he's done like other kid stuff as well. Like
Yeah.
he had a little cameo in Paddington 2, and he was one of the voices in The Mandalorian recently too.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I was hearing him
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, he's funny and he's great.
Yeah.
Blurb off.
Blurb off, yes.
Blurb off. Give me a blurb for this movie.
I went first last time. Okay, Soul is about a teacher rediscovering their love for their own life despite losing. No, not losing. Despite. So okay, this is hard because this movie is about a bunch of stuff. Okay.
Yes.
It's about a teacher achieving the goal they set out to do and rediscovering that wasn't what life was about in the end.
I'm going to go off similar lines and I'm going
Yeah.
to say two souls,
Mhm.
two lost souls,
Mhm.
find out what their true purpose is in life.
Interesting, because you could argue that's good, but you could argue purpose itself is sort of a red herring.
No, I think it isn't. I think
Mhm.
true purpose is definitely not a
Okay.
red heading. The misunderstanding of
Yes.
purpose.
Yes,
That's
true.
a prominent antagonistic theme in this movie.
Well, good.
Um,
We jumped straight into the deep end already.
Yeah,
Because this movie is deep. Like, there's no shallow waters here, and I had to watch it several times.
For a kids film, this isn't really a kids film. This is the most adult film that Disney Pixar have made to date.
It is, and I mean, the thing is, Pixar movies as a whole, there's you could talk about the Freudian ego in id and how deep it goes, but
Mhm.
all their movies have a family appeal, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying that because sometimes you say family, it's like, oh, it's G-rated, it's this, that, and the other. It's just schmuck.
Mm.
No, family appeal as in every single person in a family who watches a Pixar movie will get a lot out of it.
Yeah. They've done a fantastic job crafting the world that the story takes place in as well.
The animation in this movie is so good.
The world building
Yeah,
is just on a narrative level is fantastic. You've got characters who live inside of this world that feel fleshed out, even though they don't have any dialogue.
no, yeah,
Um,
you can see people acting in the background in this movie. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a New York character. Oh yeah, that's a character that lives in the great beyond.
Yeah,
It makes sense. I think this is something Pixar has always done really well, though, is they have things like simple things going on in their movies that add to the general construct
Yeah.
of the movie, and all the constructs in a movie add to the theme somehow.
yes, yeah. And the way in which, well, let's start from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, we open on Fox's character
Mhm.
teaching a class at a high school somewhere.
And I had instant flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because if you've been in a school band, you know that it's not an exaggeration what's going on at the start there.
Yeah, and he witnesses this kid who's very talented and very into music get pushed down
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
by the other kids in the class, and he tries to encourage her, but it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really want to point out about this movie is the structure
Mm-hmm.
and the pacing.
Yeah.
It's not traditional,
No, this story goes here, there, and everywhere.
but
Uh-huh.
in regards to its subject matter, which is music, which is jazz,
Mhm.
it actually borrows its beats
Yeah.
and its structure from jazz music. So the way in which jazz jumps around and moves from place to place and invokes this meaning with simplicity, and sometimes more than simplicity, sometimes with very complicated structure.
Yes.
This film does all of that, which is insane because I didn't really think about it while I was watching it. But after I finished, I went back mentally and
Mhm.
kind of just took stock of what was going on, and I noticed that it feels like the film itself feels like jazz.
Yep.
It's not traditional filmmaking.
No, it's not, and not traditional storytelling
Mm.
because the story doesn't follow. I guess there is a line, but it's not linear.
Yeah.
It'll go back on its notes. It'll go here, it'll go there, and it'll all matter to the overall plot. But
Yeah.
it might, like for example, there's one flashback scene when they're walking through a corridor with Sol and 22 later on in the movie, and that's the only flashback scene in the whole movie. But
Mm.
it's relevant to the overarching plot of understanding the main character, Joe Gardner.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't get that from just watching it, it's like, okay, there's not going to be more flashbacks later on. That's not important. That doesn't matter. It's how rare is it you see a movie where there's just one small flashback scene? That's the only scene like that you get.
Yeah. I mean, most films will do several flashbacks just to make sure that you get it.
Yeah, there'll be
Which is so. I mean,
yeah.
fucking Birds of Prey was built off of flashbacks. Like that film.
I've tried to forget that film.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
I do know what you mean.
It couldn't stand. The narrative couldn't stand by itself without the flashbacks.
Yeah.
This film only has like maybe one or two flashback scenes, and both of them are utilized without wasting our time.
Yeah.
There's no, like, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's very obvious that the character goes through, this emotional peril and thinks back on what he could have done better.
I guess there is. So, while I said there's only one flashback scene, there is a later scene where he's remembering.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're all related to what the character is going through at that point in time,
Yeah.
their mindset, what they think their goal is, what they think is important to them. So that's why they're relevant.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like the flashback scene, the way it's delivered in the movie, it's like they were literally walking through his memories.
Yeah.
Whereas later on, he's remembering, like the way they're presented is different. You can only get away with this in animation, can't you?
Well, I disagree. I do disagree, just because I think in terms of filmmaking, if you can see it, visualize it, you can film it. It takes, various degrees of difficulty to film certain things, but I believe everything can be translated to film. It's a lot easier, to an extent in animation, but even so, this film kind of flexes the animation muscles of what they've got access to.
Yes.
And they go all out to develop and show us this story. Like one of the most amazing parts I love about this is all of the little details in the background. When Joe is walking down into the bar, and you see all of the photographs on the wall of the greats, and he looks at them all in awe as he goes down to play the piano.
Because it's his perspective. It's like, once again, it's what he sees, and that it's related to us, so it shows the world and what matters to him.
Exactly. It's part of his culture.
Yeah.
We see flashbacks of his dad taking him to this place. That's the one flashback that we see early on in the film. And we get this idea, and I love it because I'm so, like, this has such a big meaning for me personally. This misunderstanding of purpose.
Yeah.
This misunderstanding of what to do. And it goes from him thinking that his purpose is to be this famous jazz musician to becoming a little bit more personal. It's not about the status that you hold or what you should be aiming for.
Yeah.
It's about, are you enjoying life? Are you actually enjoying life? Or are you hating the fact that you have to jump through hoops to get what you want and then be disappointed when you actually do get it?
Yeah, that is kind of the killer of this movie, and the punch that hits you in the gut is that he achieves what he wants and then realizes that's not what he should have. That's not all that there is to life.
Yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
What I got out of the movie about that moment punched me in the gut is like the realization is like, we work hard for one thing.
Yeah.
We can achieve that thing or we cannot achieve that thing. In the end, it doesn't matter as much as aiming to achieve that thing. And what matters more is the relationships, what we build up along the way. How many times do you see someone, an actor, make it, and then they all of a sudden they go into a charity group, and all of a sudden that becomes their thing?
Yeah.
They might still do movies now and then, but all of a sudden they're working in this area, or they're working in that.
Like Hugh Jackman's work.
Yeah.
In humanity, like helping people overseas, setting up different areas where he can have an influence there. A lot of people, you can't just have one thing that you're aiming for, because once you get it, what happens then?
Yeah, I think,
and most people self-implode when they do get there.
Yeah.
If that's their one focus.
Well, they burn themselves out as well. That's the other thing. It's like if you keep achieving, if you ride that high too long, you burn yourself out. That's why people like Daniel Day-Lewis have stepped away from acting, because like they had their craft and they did and their way of doing it, but that took a lot out of them in terms of their lifestyle and their relationships and everything like that. So it was like, no, I can't keep going like this. I have to stop.
Like for my experience, every time I've completed I've finished filming or something for a role.
Yep.
Or I've completed a script, or I've just had like a a successful meeting with a producer or something, I go, okay, now what? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
I know exactly that.
there's always a like an emptiness that follows that, and you have to move on to something else. If you don't move on to something else, like for me, there was a time where I got incredibly depressed
Yeah,
because
it
I
does.
didn't have anything to move on to.
Well, I remember you have this feeling. It's like whenever I'd finish a show doing like a theater performance, and we wait with things like, okay, well, we start planning the next show. Well, that doesn't always happen.
Mm.
Like, because sometimes there's no ideas for the next show.
Yeah.
So there's that gap, and all the relationships you make along the way that were tied to that event. That essentially what it is like they fall away.
Yeah.
So for people who are living in the arts, when their relationships are based on whether it be performance or interconnectivity or something like that. I mean, people on YouTube have the same thing where
Yeah.
they meet up with it for events and then they disperse again because there's these communities that are tied to things. And then if the event ends, if the production is closed, it's like, well, what then? And you have to realize it's like, what matters to you, that's what you should work on. But it's not easy or simple to see. But people from the other side don't see that because they haven't got to that yet.
Yeah.
When you're making a movie, the last thing you want to be is overshadowed by something else because you'll become defined by something else instead of being your own thing.
You don't want to even think about being overshadowed by something. You want to, all you want to do is just you want to make that thing. You want to write that piece of music. You want to, finish that role. You want to do all this stuff to do that stuff, like to finish the song, to finish that script, to wrap on production. It should never be about trying to compete with something else. And as soon as you do that, you take away from not just yourself but also the art that you're trying to complete.
The only thing you should be competing with is your own idea of what your thing is you're making because you want it to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
That's it. And if there's something pushing you for that, that's fine. But if it's something else, then it's destructive, not constructive.
Yeah.
I think Joe Gardner finds that in this movie.
Yeah.
Where he gets to that stage where he's like, okay, I've got here. Because also it's subverting expectations, this movie.
Yeah.
Because you assume that Joe isn't going to achieve. He's not going to get to the stage because he's become a cat. He's turned back into human. Spoilers on the plot.
I actually anticipated him to be able to. I thought he was going to make it back after helping 22 find who she is, and he was going to perform on stage, and he was going to get everything that was coming to him.
That was the climax.
That was what I thought the climax was going to be halfway through the film.
Yeah.
But it takes a left turn and it goes into an incredibly deep place that I wasn't expecting it to go.
Yeah.
And the other way, the way I was expecting, I still would have been happy with. But this, it's so much more than that.
Yeah, I think this is the key, though. It's like, this is what makes Pixar different. It's like, they go, okay, well, what's the story here? What's the story we're trying to tell? It's like, oh, we could do something easy. No, we don't want to do something easy. We want to do a right story. We want to make it right. And this is the story we want to tell that will matter. Because it's so easy to have, do the classic Hollywood plot arc. Guy doesn't have something. He gets something.
Yeah.
His life is complete. No, that's not what this is about. It's about a guy rediscovering what is important in life. And so we probably should talk about 22 because 22 is important in this movie.
She comes in after Joe has made it into this kind of afterlife thing, and
the great beyond.
He escapes the great beyond
Yes.
to go to where all souls come from.
Yeah,
this kind of preschool for souls.
It is,
and it's fantastic. You've got people who have died who they come and help these young souls find who they are before they go to Earth. There's this great scene where you've got You Will Be Aloof, and a group of kids go into this aloof building, come out.
You guys will be self-obsessed. You guys will be
douchebags, and they come out as douchebags. And they're all they all fit into a mold except for this one soul
who's tried everything.
And people have tried. She's had she's had President Lincoln.
Yeah.
She's had George Washington. She's had Gandhi. She's had Mother Teresa. And there's this great scene, great setup of scenes with all of them, and they just insult her and say, you're impossible to, I can't do anything with you, all of that other stuff. And because of this, she's got kind of this block against doing this kind of stuff. And then she and Joe team up because they realize they can get what they want from each other, what they
Yes.
think they want from each other.
I think this is a key as well. Like too often you see two souls, pun intended, stuck together in a movie
Yeah.
for no reason. But in this movie, it makes sense. They
Yes.
both want things, and the other is able to provide that thing. Basically, Joe provides entertainment for 22, is bored out of her mind, or his mind, gender non-specific.
But also he has the key to what she wants. She wants to go to the great beyond and skip life on Earth because she doesn't think it's worthwhile. Which again, the connotations are
Dark connotations.
the connotations are pretty deep there by itself. And they go down to they go down to Earth almost like kind of accidentally. Joe kind of just jumps in with her. And Joe gets put into a therapy cat and 22 ends up in his body. And one of the best parts about this kind of Freaky Friday kind of switch up is Joe on the outside starts to react to people differently than what he normally would. And he starts actually seeing different results. Yeah. He starts to know people
The barbershop
better.
scene.
The barbershop scene is probably one of my favorite. It's so beautifully constructed on the inside, and the characters as well.
You know, every single time the camera goes back to the cat, which is Joe, with a reaction.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't say much. He just, I think he says a few things at the start, but after that, he's just reacting. And that's all you need to know. The point of this scene is Joe seeing the world he lives in is bigger than he thought it was.
Yeah.
His impact is bigger than he thought it was as well. And people care about him in different ways, which he wasn't aware of.
And talking to the barber in that scene, they talk about purpose. Like, why are you still working here? I thought you wanted to do
22 is
this.
so naive, which allows us to be blunt about things as well.
Yeah, and she is, which is great. And the barber says, look, I don't really, like, yes, I wanted to do that once upon a time. But, like, I found this, and how can I give this up? Like, this is, I've fallen in love with this. Yes, I did that, but I want this. And the fact that he's followed that, his passion or his truth is so much more powerful than the idea that, oh, you want to be this? Okay, you be that then. And it's a lot more, I was listening to this motivational speaker, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how following your passions is bullshit.
Yeah.
Following your you should never follow your passion. You should work at what you're good at and get great at what you're good at, and then turn that into something that you are passionate about. Because if you follow your passions, and I feel like this is pretty true. You find yourself, every time you fail, you find yourself thinking, oh, well, it's not meant to be. I can't follow my passion.
Just the worst thing you can ever think about anything.
Just fucking work at it.
Yeah.
The work is what people should be falling in love with. And unfortunately, and Disney kind of is a little bit at fault for this, but during the 90s, the 80s, even the early 2000s, really, films kind of targeted this idea at us, saying, if you want it, you should follow it and make it happen. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. If you want it, work.
Yeah.
If you need it, work. If you think you're good at it, work. Don't sit back and wish that it's going to happen. And I'm guilty of that. Like,
everyone
the past,
is. And it is this thing, is like the American dream. The idea of the American dream is that you work hard, you get stuff. But no one likes to talk about the working hard anymore.
No.
They just like to think, oh, you have this thing that's driving you. Well, follow that thing and you'll make
But
something
also,
of yourself.
there is this danger that people can fall into when they do that as well. When they focus on the work, it's like this idea that if you aren't working really hard, you don't deserve anything. And like, people on Facebook, people on Instagram, they post about, putting their noses down and working on the grind and doing all this, this hard work ethic kind of stuff. And it's like, well, people can work really hard and still get nowhere. Like, that's not.
Yes, you can.
You're
yes, you can.
You are perpetuating this idea of, if you're working hard, then you're successful, and if you're not successful, you obviously didn't work hard enough. But we're talking about people who have different lifestyles. We're not just talking about that, but also
Every individual's different.
we're talking about people with families that they have to take care of, that are working really hard and still not getting by.
You have different objectives, and then you have different commitments. You have different responsibilities,
Yeah.
and these things all affect you.
Yep.
I think the worst thing you can do is be solely self-obsessed and not understand your impact. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the best things about this movie is it makes the community part of the picture, and that he's a teacher, he's affecting kids.
But that classroom scene at the very beginning, the barbershop
Yeah.
scene, the time where he actually gets up on that stage and performs with this singer
Mhm.
on the night,
Yeah.
and you see the community in the bar.
Mhm.
Joe is missing all of this
Yeah.
when he's in there normally.
Yeah.
And the way in which they portray the whole getting lost in the music or getting lost in their passion.
Yeah.
There is this fantastic scene where they have people floating, like souls floating in the air, doing what they love, and they're lost in it. But then you see a couple of them start to descend down to the ground, and their passion just overtakes them. And it's actually, like, I found it a bit horrifying.
Oh,
like,
it is horrifying.
It was terrifying.
It's dark. It's extremely dark. Just to take a complete left turn. The first time I saw this movie, I was thinking back on all these things, and I hate myself for it now. I had the thought, is this too dark for kids? And it's like, is this just an adult's film, not a kid's film? Well, that's stupid, and I hate myself for thinking it, because I've always been the opinion kids' movies should actually be darker. Kids' movies should be like this, because kids get it.
Yeah.
In fact, kids might get it better than teenagers or young adults will.
There is this innocence for children that allows them to be unfettered when it comes to being able to read between the lines. Because we've been brought up in this society that tells us that we need to not feel things, we need to pretend like it doesn't exist.
Well, we get lost in the shades of grey.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily see things clearly because we've deliberately misted our own eyes. So a hedge fund manager. Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. That's what you want to be.
Yeah. That's everyone's goal.
Yeah.
I'm having a bit of a dig, which also Saul is at hedge fund managers.
Yes.
But it's that thing of kids get it.
Yeah. And we shouldn't be trying to over explain things or block them out, because I think it's important for kids to be able to explore their emotional intelligence more.
I think it's important. I think it's extremely important for kids to see the emotional complications that adults have.
Yeah.
Because kids will fix it. Kids can fix it, and because they have clear eyes, they get it. It's like, and often adults, us, we're the ones who make it difficult for ourselves to change. Whereas a kid will just go and change. It's
They'll
like,
just go with the flow. They'll do what needs. They will just instinctively react. We've been told not to be instinctive anymore.
Yeah.
For years and years and years, we've been told, because it's not socially appropriate for kids to do this. It's not how we deal with problems to do this. And
we lay ourselves in the rules and the red tape, and then we stop ourselves from doing anything. And it's not logical. So that's the silly thing. It's like, our basis of it is logic, but it's not logical to do these things.
No,
we strap ourselves down to society's grinding gears. We become part of the system.
Yeah, because we get little rewards here and there.
Yes,
like money or food,
food,
or
food.
you know what I mean. Like you get little tidbits here and there, and it's like it in the grand scheme of things. Let's use my life as an example. The last 5 years, I've been working in a dead end job with no room for growth, working for people who don't give a damn about me, who only see me as a number. And I do it because I get money. That's fucking bullshit.
That's not how it should be done.
That's not life. That's not living. And I've been depressed, probably the worst depression I've had since I started working there. Across my entire life.
Because the job's crushed you.
It's ridiculous. And unfortunately, we see this and we think, you know what? That's life.
Well,
like, I've got a friend at work who, like, I say, look, I don't want to be here anymore. And he says, well, what are you going to do about the money? What are you going to be doing about rent? What are you going to do? And yes, they are concerns. But I'm not good at the 9 to 5. I'm not good at it. Like this is I talked earlier about how passions and finding what you're good at and following what you're good at are important. I'm not good at 9 to 5. Why the fuck am I working 9 to 5? That is a stupid thing to do. It is. It's dumb.
You do, yeah. I'm a little bit the same. I'm caught in the same situation right now where I'm working a bit more than I should be,
Yeah.
and my boss knows that, and it's not permanent. Eventually, I won't be doing this. I'll have slightly more time in my hands,
Yeah.
but I'm getting the money while I can too. So there is that. But at the same time, I have a job I get stuff out of.
Yeah.
And it's not much, but it's more than you get out of your job, frankly.
It's way more than I get out of mine. I'm actually like I've been,
Like my job's not fantastic.
searching for a new job for the past couple of weeks, like dedicated searching, trying to find something where I can fit. Because it's not like if you and I'm saying this to you out there, if you're listening and you have, if you're not satisfied in the work you're doing, try and find something that you're satisfied in. Don't quit straight off the bat, because I feel like that's an unwise thing for me to tell anybody. But if you've got a job and you're not happy and you're good at something else, follow that something else if you can.
Now, we're not suggesting that you quit your teaching job and become a jazz musician. That's not what we're saying here, 'cause
No.
that's missing the point.
No. Because in Soul, the point was never, he needed to quit his job. The point wasn't that he was a teacher. The point was he learned to find happiness in places where he needed it.
Yeah, which were actually important. He realized the thing he needed was to grow as a person, to open his eyes up a bit.
Yeah.
So when you have the final scene of him walking out the door, just taking in the breeze, you're like, oh, you're learn to love life.
One of the writers on Twitter, because I follow them all on Twitter, he said that one of the biggest debates in the writer's room for this film was whether Joe lives or dies at the end. That was one of the biggest points of contention for a lot of the writers.
And I can get it.
And I actually thought they were going to let him die at the end. I thought he was
made
gone.
the sacrifice. He made the choice. Spoilers again.
But yeah, the agency in what he did, it's his decision. It's not, the film doesn't take that decision away from him.
No.
Which is so important for a strong character growth.
Yeah.
In a film, in any other film, like if they take that agency away from the character and something happens outside of their control at the end of a film,
a Deus Ex Machina.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's lazy. And one of the things, like, you want that to happen in the first half, and it does in the first half of this film.
Yeah.
When he falls down the sewage drain,
Which reminded me a bit of the Simpsons movie, but
yeah. But and that was outside of his control.
Yeah.
But what wasn't outside of his control is how he handles himself after that.
yeah, exactly. It's the situation might change, but how he reacts to it is still under his control.
Yeah.
In fact, it's unique.
Speaking of things outside of our control, there is some form of grinding and cutting
Yes.
coming from outside
There's
of
some
my
gardening
window.
going on.
I don't know about gardening,
I think
but there's
they're
like a
hedge
circular
cutter.
saw or something.
I think it's a hedge cutter.
Oh, okay. Oh, I disagree. I think it's a circular saw.
Okay, it's a circular saw going through someone's corpse.
Oh, well, all right. That you went from hedge to dead body real fucking quick, Scotty.
You went to the circular saw. I was like, okay, well,
Circular saw sounds about right?
Yeah, it is pretty similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Going
What?
through a body.
Oh God, I can't do this with you. It's not. Soul is on Disney Plus if you want to check it out,
Yeah, it's not additional price. You don't need to spend.
which is fucking great. I love that.
Yeah,
It's fantastic. But you and I both watched different films as well,
yes,
done by the same
Pete Docter's-
kind of
Yeah,
group of people. I'm
it is.
guessing. Pete Docter did Up.
Yep.
And he did Inside Out.
yeah.
And one thing I would like to point out is Inside Out is, if we're talking about how this film, Soul, is more aimed at adults,
Yeah.
Inside Out, to me, is a similar story,
Yeah.
but aimed at kids more.
Yeah, I think I think I completely agree with that. I think
It's almost like they wanted to make Soul, and Disney said, the market's not ready for it yet.
yeah, I can
And
see
they
that.
went, okay, well, let's let's make something a little bit more kid friendly.
Once again, both Inside Out and Soul are still suitable for people of all ages.
Yes.
It's just Soul is a darker movie overall, I'd say, than Inside Out.
And I really enjoy Inside Out.
Mhm.
I think out of a lot of the films, recently, I think the Pixar has kind of really honed in on making emotionally resonant stories.
Yeah.
Like when you think back on Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3,
Well, Toy Story,
which one was the one that made you cry the most?
Toy Story 2.
It's Toy Story 2 and then Toy Story 3. You've got Toy Story 2, Jesse's story is fucking heartbreaking.
It is.
It is. But Toy Story 3, you have this moment where you think all the toys are fucking going to die.
Yeah, that's true.
Death and mortality is such a huge thing in Toy Story 3. But Toy Story 1, there's no, it is emotional, don't get me wrong, but they've kind of honed more in line with what emotional resonance is. And they're following
They've
that.
just taken up to 11, I think. I can't. Is that becoming my thing? Turn up to anyway. They just increased each time because in the first one it's like the disconnect between the owner and the toy and becoming a new toy and the replacement. So there's a bit of that. There's a bit of the mortality thing going on. And number 2, it's becoming okay. You can become on something on the shelf for all eternity, or you could be talking about one-on-one relationships versus immortality. Essentially, I guess is what's going on here. And then the third one,
the two different reactions to that as well.
Yeah, and then the third one, the conflict is just death.
Yeah.
But they're all heartbreaking. I mean, Monsters Inc. has something similar as well. I mean, Disney, Pixar. I can keep Disney in there. Pixar as a whole.
Disney, Pixar. Yeah.
Pixar as a whole has always understood that massive emotional conflict is great.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It's meaty stuff. And each time they've done it in a different environment as well. I watched Up, and the first 8 minutes of Up might be the best thing ever animated ever.
It's honestly, I remember watching that in theaters, and I did not expect to be crying like 10 minutes into the movie.
They had us crying within 10 minutes. They had us crying within 10 minutes.
It's insane how well crafted that scene, that montage is. And not just that, but the rest of the film holds up.
It is really good.
At the very end, the stakes and what Carl gets from that story, from his journey, is incredible, and I love it.
And a lot of the jokes hold up as well.
Yeah.
In Up, especially with the Boy Scout and the dog.
I think
really
Up is
funny.
better. I think Up is better.
It's always better than you remember it, and it's because it's overshadowed by the first 10 minutes being so good, you forget how good the rest of the movie is, which is a shame. Go watch both of these movies. Are also free on Disney Plus if you're on Disney Plus.
Well, not free, but subscription.
Disney send us some money.
I mean, I won't say no.
Yeah.
They're also available on Amazon, I'm pretty sure, if you wanted to rent them and you don't have Disney Plus.
Probably, I think they're on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Same
well,
thing.
yeah. Rent them.
I also recently, over the last few weeks, rewatched Coco and Moana as well. And the reason I did that is I saw an article talking about before Soul came out, it was positioned, probably not on purpose, as the African American experience. After they talked about Latino experiences and Islander experiences, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the most politically correct term, but Islanders. Islanders.
Samoans.
Yeah, Samoans, Tongans.
Yeah.
They're more aimed at the Pacific Islands.
Minorities.
Yes.
A lot of it was aimed at it was translating the minority experience. Yeah, the history and the culture behind it.
And both of those movies are great because they're great adventure movies, and also they combine culture with the narrative. This person was written by an African American. He was very happy that Soul was not actually that, because it would have been kind of sad if that was all it was. In fact, he was very happy that this was just a character that happened to be black. And in fact, that's a good thing for society in a whole, that we can just have characters, they happen to be black. No, that doesn't matter. Yeah. That's just part of who they are.
Like, he wasn't attending Black Lives Matter protests. He wasn't, you know what I mean? Like,
he could have been, but it wouldn't have mattered.
But it didn't matter. What mattered was him as a person, not him as an African American. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
it honed in on what it means to be a person inside that culture.
So
and
it removed him from any stereotype,
Yeah,
which is great because that's the thing you're terrified of happening, and which, I mean, the brilliant thing about Moana and Coco is that they
Yeah.
do avoid those things. They talk about the culture without falling into those traps.
yeah,
And the movie does that as well. It's just
Yeah.
it maybe even goes a level further where it's like anyone could be Joe. Anyone could be Joe.
yeah. And there wasn't any like stupid they didn't try to dumb it down for anyone.
No.
You know what I mean? Like
No.
there was no over explaining like, oh, this is what this means in the barber shot and that is what that means.
But at the same time,
they'd
they'd still have the conversations that were necessary for everyone to understand what's going on, because the narrative does take left turns here, there, and everywhere.
Yes.
So to follow along, you have to be on your ball, but at the same time, it's still made for kids, so you're going to get it.
And I love how the music was just part of the structure of this movie. Like, if you take the music out of this movie, you take half of the film with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of it.
Because that once again, it's like what you see on screen and what you're hearing is resonating with what Joe's going through, or what his perspective on life is as it's going through.
With something that's important to him, because jazz music is important to him, and because they use that to be able to help tell his story, it makes it that much more relevant.
Just go back to 22 again, because 22 is a very important character in this film, but her arc isn't as important as Joe's arc.
No.
Even though she's so important. The fundamental point of 22, I think, in this movie is to let Joe see what life is like from the grass is always green on the other side, looking at life from a different angle.
And they both kind of learn the same thing.
Yeah.
In a way.
They do.
They learn a little bit more about what purpose is.
What life is.
And what life, by extension.
I mean, it's massive, but, it's kind of, it feels silly to say
like,
what life is.
We don't have long here. You know what I mean? Like, we don't.
Time is limited.
We don't live in a unlimited place where we can just do whatever the fuck we want. We can't just get hung up on work. We can't get hung up on what we think is our purpose, or waiting for the right moment to do something.
No, you got to live in the moment. And I think what's great about Joe is that he does do that at the start of the movie, but then he realizes, yes, he needs to keep doing that, but he needs to do that for all his aspects of his life, not just his passion. Anyway, I think it is an important movie.
Yes.
It is a very good movie.
I would not be surprised. Actually, I will be surprised if it doesn't win Best Animated Picture.
What's the competition? That's the question. Onward is another animated movie by Pixar, but I think this is better.
Yes, I agree. I don't think Onward really stands a chance.
No, I don't either.
But it's a great film, don't get me wrong.
Is there a great Japanese animation movie from this year?
I can't think of any.
I think Weathering with You was last year, but
it was before last year. I'm pretty sure it was the end of 2019.
Yeah,
that it came out.
Can't think of anything else.
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
Well, there is.
There's the one on Apple. Can't remember what it's called. The Wolf.
Oh yes, yes, I know what you're talking about.
I
think it's actually on Netflix.
No, it isn't. It's on Apple.
There's that one. There. I mean, there was a whole bunch of bad ones like Trolls 2 and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay, Trolls. I think we're up to Trolls 4 now. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
World Tour is the one I'm talking
but
about.
apparently, World Tour isn't as bad as it's the best one in the series.
Yeah, that's not saying
but
much.
Like, it's not. Yeah, I don't think it stands. It holds a candle to Soul. I think Soul is it should be the one that wins all the awards.
Yeah, I don't. Miyazaki hasn't done anything this year.
His son is making a CGI.
Yeah, but that's not coming out.
It doesn't look good.
No, well, we'll see.
He doesn't have the same, like, a lot of the movies that he's been a part of don't have the same devotion to narrative that his father has. I don't know where it is. But
I was actually heard when someone was talking about Soul, they compared it to Spirited Away in terms of narrative structure,
Yeah.
and how all over the place it is.
Yeah.
Spirited Away, great movie. Its narrative doesn't matter that it goes here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Alice in Wonderland's the same as well.
Yeah.
It's like these movies.
I mean,
fantastic.
Spirited Away could be seen as an Alice in Wonderland.
It could be.
Not a parody, but you know what I mean, like a
Homage.
pastiche.
Yeah.
Because it shows someone, falling down the rabbit hole, learning something different, coming out the side, having changed, similar to Soul. Or just the narrative process in general, really.
I'm just trying to think of any other animated movies, and I can't. This is kind of weird, but I'm sure there are. we're getting into the Spider-Verse 2 soon, aren't we? Or am I just...
Spider-Verse 2,
When is that coming out?
that's coming out end of this year, I think.
It is end of this year. I feel so close.
End of
and
this
it's
year or
so far
beginning
away.
of next year. I
Yeah.
can't remember. But
Oh.
yeah.
Hey, remember all those March movies looking forward to last January?
Oh, yeah. They're
Coming out in March.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to, in 4 or 5 days' time, it's probably already out by the time we're doing this podcast, Vision and Scarlet Witch as well.
Yep, the TV show.
WandaVision, is that
Yep,
what it's called?
WandaVision, yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It looks weird and wonderful.
I know,
It looks, emotionally challenging.
psychedelic
Yeah.
and thrilling. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because that's my type of jazz. Yeah,
I mean, they've got so many other TV shows coming out,
yeah.
especially Disney. I think this year is going to be the year for Disney Plus. I
Yes.
think this is where a lot
They
of their
are prepared.
exclusive content is
Mhm.
going to come out.
The Mandalorian was really just to whet everyone's appetites.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, it did an alright job, I
Yeah.
guess.
they did.
Yeah.
Jordan's bit.
I just wish it could be its own thing instead of riding on
Mhm.
the success of other things
And
within
then
the
letting
universe.
other things ride on their success. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean? A little
I
bit
just-
less interconnected.
I want it to be its own thing.
Yeah.
I like self-contained stories.
Yeah.
And when stories, like, they can have nods here and there to other things,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Mhm.
But when they start to kind of ride on the success of other things, like, I mean, I'm sorry, but the most recent Mandalorian had several instances where the plot needed to move forward because of a fan servicey nod.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I was like, I wish it could
But
be its own thing.
I kind of like the ending, even though you could argue it's fan service. I think it's still appropriate.
Oh,
Although
it wasn't well done.
the CGI.
Oh, it wasn't well done.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, they have access
Mhm.
to an actor that looks almost identical
Yeah,
to
I
him,
know.
which is insane. And he sounds similar too. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you use him? Like, yeah, sure, fair enough. Go back to the original actor. But
Anyway.
that's what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
there are ways to do it while still making its own thing.
Yeah.
I just wish that they could have done that more. So, guys, we have just finished our review of Soul.
And we're looking forward to the future.
Yes. So we have decided, and you heard the new jingle earlier,
Mhm.
which is great, fantastic. I'm going to throw in another shout out right here.
Film Roast theme song by Noah DiMincenzo and Steph Torres.
Jesus, Jordan. Oh, man. Ow.
And so we're going to start focusing up, and we're going to make this podcast better.
Yeah, we're restructuring. 2020 was, well, it was hell, and as we're all aware, but our podcast suffered because of it. But we're rebranding ourselves again.
Well, not rebranding.
No,
We're keeping the name, but we're
Yeah.
restructuring everything from the art design to the music, the sound that you're listening to. We want to make this better, and the structure as well is something that we're going to do more of. We want you guys to get way more involved.
Yeah.
We're going to try our best to make it easier for you guys, because we want this to succeed. We really want you guys to be a part of the conversation with that.
we may get merchandise. We may.
We'll see.
That may happen
If we get
the end of the year, but we may.
if we get enough people, we're gonna have stuff to hand out and freebies to send out, and
Also, we
tickets
want to get more involved with your guys. So the basis, what we're going to do from now on is we're going to have an episode every single month, which will look back on the month and give us an overriding look and our perspectives, because that's all that really
So I
matters.
don't mind that. That's somebody hammering the bushes.
Yeah, it's not my
As
heart.
Scotty
My
believes.
yes, my voice is just echoing in the background. So what we want to do is every one of these episodes, we'll go through the box office, we'll go through the big movies that have come out over the month, but we'll also go in deep on a cinematic style or technique and how it's used in film and what it does, and then we'll also go through the comments that we find online on individual movies, roasting, and we'll roast them because everyone needs a good deep roast.
Or
to
we'll
bring
just
the
roast.
flavor.
We'll roast a movie.
Oh, we'll just roast a movie, yeah.
Yeah. Because
Blood Rain
like,
2, it sucks.
roasting doesn't mean destroying.
No.
Oftentimes, especially when in the coffee business,
Exactly.
it means refining, making
Yes.
things better. So that's what we hope to do, not just for ourselves, but also for the films we watch.
And for our audience, because we love you.
Yeah, we do. And normally we would have, right now, we want to do some trivia
Yes.
in the future. We're not going to do that now, but just so you guys are forewarned, there's going to be questions aimed at you guys that you guys can answer. And I think it depends on how we go. If we get enough people, there could be a special something in it for the winner. But we'll see how we do.
Yes. we will see.
And I don't know about you, Scotty, but I think we're done.
I think we are done. Also, if anyone thinks Jordan should organize a Patreon for us to do, that's also up to you guys. So
Yeah, we kind of need you guys to decide that. We need way more followers.
yeah,
Thanks to my mum, because she is the only one that's listening to
yeah.
this.
Thank you, Jordan's mum. I really appreciate you listening
You've
to us
done.
every week.
You've really struggled, and
Downloaded this podcast.
It's been difficult
I know,
listening to us because we do.
especially when we drag out things like this, like the ending of episodes for so long.
Exactly. Have a good week, Scotty.
Have a good week, Jordan.
Thank you, and you guys have a good week too. I've been Jordan.
I remain Scotty.
Yes, he will, and we've been the Film Roast Podcast. See you guys next week.
Have a coffee.